How are you doing this, Martin from Gardens for Life? So we are actually live on a broadcast for the very first time. We're actually live on YouTube and on Facebook at the same time. And thanks to my lovely wife, Bianca, who let me use her music studio, which is kind of a multi-purpose space at this point anyway. We are also using some really good recording equipment now. We have a microphone right here. Hopefully you can hear me properly. Would you guys mind actually letting me know if you can hear me okay? Or maybe it's not loud enough. What we'll do is we'll just wait for people to come in, and I'll just be talking to you a little bit about why we're doing the podcasts, or broadcasts I should call them, or streams, actually live streams. And we'll give you a little news update as well of a few things that have been going on here in the last week or two as well on our own property here, Birdland Studio, or Birdland Cottage, I should say, and our Gardens for Life gardens as well. So thank you guys for joining. Before we get into the main topic, as I said, we'll try and check if the sound is working okay. Is it all okay? Oh, I see. You guys can't actually see me. Just bear with me for 1 second. I'm not entirely sure why that is. Oh, here you go. For whatever reason, there was a bit of a delay there. It seems to be working fine now. So, okay, thanks. So just another quick check, if you guys don't mind. Can you see me and can you hear me okay? Is it loud enough? And hopefully it's working. Bear with us on this one because this is our first live broadcast. We've never actually done this before. And it seems to be okay now anyway, by the looks of it. So yeah, so as you can see, I'm actually in Bianca's studio, my wife's studio, for to record this, and we have a microphone. Now you can see it. And yeah, the main aim of these broadcasts is to cool. Thank you, Morgan. The main aim is to encourage others to start their own gardens and to basically make your experience of starting and having the garden and tending it and actually harvesting from it basically more productive and less work, or less agonizing, I should say. Some people, especially if you're new to gardening, a lot of times we hear that people are talking about, oh yeah, digging up the weeds and having to, basically do all of those kind of chores, keeping an eye on things, and it's basically a lot of work up front. And mostly you will find that actually with No Dig Gardening, it's a lot more in tune with nature, because you're kind of just dropping the fertility on top rather than digging up existing soil and destroying the soil structure itself and bringing up all this nitrogen that'll just fly off into the air. And of course, you're killing off a lot of the soil life as well when you're going around digging. So that's why we basically try to find ways, and we've been experimenting a lot over the years now, over actually many years now. Probably about 6 years ago, we found out about No Dig Gardening for the first time, and we actually made a lot of mistakes along the way. And funny enough, this was actually at other properties where we were just renting. And 3.5 years ago, we finally bought a property, a house with land, and we finally were able to actually put all of our experience and all the mistakes we made into good use, basically, and actually do the right thing here from the get-go. But we're still experimenting, and we're still trying to figure out the most efficient ways to do things. There is different ways you can actually kill off weeds, or grasses, I should call them. Basically, you need to deal with them in a way that either, if you have a lot of time, you could actually cover them in black plastic and just leave them there for a long period of time. But we'll get into that more in a minute. What I'll do first is I'll say thanks again for everybody from joining. Thanks to everybody for joining, and thanks for Bianca for helping me set this up. And yeah, hopefully you guys can see me okay and everything is fine. I see some messages from people here that it's okay. So I'll just share my screen with you here, and I'll just show you. You will see me in Infinite now in a minute. There you go. Let me have a look here now. So I have a folder here with some pictures that I saved, just some news basically. Before we get into the main topic of No Dig Lasagne Gardening, we want to give you some of what's been happening here around our place, just to show you and just to keep you up to date. Of course, since this is the first live podcast, I could actually show you a lot more, and we will in the near future. We'll do these broadcasts more often, maybe once a week, I would assume. That's probably the measure we're going to go for. And we'll try to keep them relatively short, not to keep people for too long as well, and try and keep it relevant to the topic. And probably we'll go for about a half an hour for each of these broadcasts. And you can access them later as well and send them on to friends. And if you want to share them, please do it now if you like, or send them on to friends that might be into gardening, especially while we're live. Then I can see you guys all popping up in the top corner. And if you want to ask any questions, please do ask them anytime you like. And I'll keep an eye on the chat every once in a while, and I'll try to get to your questions then as we go, rather than keeping them all to the end, and then we might not have time to get to them. So let me just show you here. So yeah, no, just a few pictures. So the other day, we have a lot of flowers now, actually, in our Woodchip Island garden that have been flowering, different colors of yarrow here, and some buddleia as well, and dahlia are also out, and hollyhocks. So it's nice to see those now still, even though it's getting colder. And we've been harvesting an awful lot of vegetables, especially courgettes. As you know, either you have no courgettes or you have too many. But this is actually these are not giant courgettes. There's actually a small wheelbarrow off our son. So, but still, it's a lot of courgettes, and we gave one to each neighbor around here. So, and some friends. Actually, we got some apples in return as well from our neighbors here. So, thanks a million, Brian and Nicola. So this is a fig we actually harvested from our greenhouse. It's a Desert King fig, and it was really good. It kind of tastes like watermelon. But we haven't had that much sunlight in the last few weeks. So I guess we'll get more, and we'll have some brown turkey figs outdoors as well. So they'll still grow. We also got some compost delivered, thanks to Paddy, if you're watching. I don't know if you are. And we got some compost delivered last weekend, and some more this weekend. So finally we are actually able to use the compost, a bit older kind of mushroom compost that we got, to repot all of those plants that we have in the greenhouse. And you'll probably see them now as we go along here. And it's also elderberry season, so you'll see the pigeons are already keeping an eye on them. And so keep in mind, make some elderberry cordials, and so maybe even some elderberry wine, but cordial is really good. And it's really important to have it because it's antiviral and it helps the immune system. And you can keep it in the fridge. Of course, you have to boil the berries for 20 minutes to dissolve the laxative effect of them, actually, basically. So just make your cordial as you would. We actually have a recipe for that on our website. If you just type in elderberry cordial. And you basically just keep it in the fridge for up to 3 months, I heard. And you can then take a little sip of it, like a shot glass of it, every day, actually, if there is a flu season going on, or even during this pandemic as well. And we also had some harvests. We were harvesting the sweet corn for the first time, although it kind of got battered by the wind and by the drought especially, but also by the late frost. So it didn't do that well this year, but we'll try again next year. For anyone that wants to know, we grow Northern Extra Sweet, and that's the name of the variety anyway we're growing. And we also have lots of carrots as well at the moment. And we've been growing some purslane and some mizuna greens in our crates. If you remember, we were growing 12 different varieties of strawberry plants in these crates, or in these tables, I should say. And they've been planted out now, probably about a month and a half or so. And we've been growing salads instead in different crates, but we put them behind the house near the back door. So we get to harvest fresh salad, and basically with no slugs, because there isn't any kind of, there's no chance for the slugs to get there anyway. The mizuna got a bit big as well, as you can see here. And we were harvesting, the first time ever we were actually harvesting mushrooms. These are actually called King Stropharia, that's the Latin name. They're also known as, the common name is winecap or garden giant. And you can grow those from spawn. So I'll show how I planted them about May last year. And we harvested the first flush now in September the year after. But you'll have them year after year now, and we can actually propagate the mycelium now, the roots of the mushroom network. So basically, we can just transplant some into other places now that we have it. And they're really delicious. We had them for breakfast this morning. King Stropharia, winecap, garden giant. Ours weren't that giant now, but probably after another year now, they'll get much bigger. Of course, at first we weren't sure whether these are actually the real thing, but we tried a few just a little bit first, and then we were sure then, though, when we identified them correctly. So the greenhouse is also underway, waiting for wood chips to get delivered, and I'm going to give you guys a full video on that as well. So we're just going to tidy it up and just cover the ground in wood chips, and you'll see it then in a proper video, how it was actually built and everything. And the wood mallows are flowering. They're actually a very delicious flower to eat, and the leaves are also edible as well. And I caught a butterfly just sunning itself on a rock in the greenhouse. I believe that's them all. Now, let me just double check something. Oh, sorry for the infinity. Hang on a second. So, yeah, we can get into the main topic here now. I figured, hang on a second. I figured we'll do a full session someday of how we actually, basically our journey, myself and Bianca, how we actually even started our gardening journey, and how it all kind of happened and started, and how we found the property as well. I thought that might be, there's a lot of valuable information in that, especially for those out there, for those of you out there that are also looking to go down the same route of actually buying a house with a bit of land, like even 1 acre or half an acre or whatever amount of land you like, and kind of try to grow your own food and things that you need. So you can also grow firewood as well, but we'll give you a full episode someday of how basically our own story developed and how it all went, and hopefully many more folks can actually benefit from this as well, even at a later point, because we'll leave these broadcasts up there for others to watch later as well. And give me a second now. Now, what we'll do now is we'll get into the main topic actually, and let me just wait me 1 second now. We're already online for 14 minutes. I don't believe it. Time flies. Okay. So we have a full screen now. What we can do is we'll do it this way. So we're going to talk about how we actually set up different types of no-dig gardens on our property in different corners. And the front garden is one of those, and we like to call it from lawn. Basically, this is kind of part of the whole lawn food for lawns kind of movement, where we actually called the video "From Lawn to No Dig Abundance," because we've had very little work actually with our front garden, and visitors are always amazed how quickly things actually took off in that garden. It was totally not sheltered. We're kind of on a hill and very windy, and we wanted some extra shelter, and we do have it now after 2 years, basically, after having planted it. But we also have, I'll show you some of that now in a minute. We also can take cuttings from all the plants there, and we can start new plants from those as well. So that was a nice project, the front garden, and thanks to Brendan, of course, for helping so much, our neighbor. And this is the pizza garden. That's kind of the main focus at this point, because it's kind of it's been set up just basically to grow annual vegetables mostly, and we don't want to grow any perennials here. So we're not going to cover the entire thing with wood chips, whereas our Woodchip Island, which you'll see in a minute, is actually covered in wood chips completely. It's fully mulched with 4 to 6 inches worth of wood chips, so that we don't have to go weeding, or at least we're down to 1% of the weeds that you would normally have in a garden if you didn't do the mulching. Now, with a no-dig garden like this one, you can expect very few weeds, but still, there's still always going to be a few because of wind-borne seeds blown in anyway. So, and we'll show you how those went in a minute. So this is our Woodchip Island, which is kind of surrounded by, as you can see here, we've kind of surrounded it by some construction timber covers, which we got for free, and we're using that to keep plants in pots, and just to stop them from rooting down into the ground and from weeds from growing in them. But also it kind of acts as a grass barrier going into the path, which is all the way around here. But we'll show you more of that in a minute. The main aim of the Woodchip Island is that we were growing it. It's a low maintenance growing space, but we were growing mostly vegetables in it, annual vegetables last year. But this year, year after year, we're growing more and more perennials, things like berry bushes, or even perennial tubers like Jerusalem artichoke and oca, and we're also growing some mashua in there, and some flowers and some specimen plants as well that we can take cuttings from. So eventually this Woodchip Island will actually be just a forest garden, a small scale forest garden. And this is our little surprise garden, actually. I believe I have another picture, yeah. You basically have just where the compost pile was for the pizza garden. This is just where it was left. Decided to, well, we might as well use this space and actually make another garden. And we planted some Waltham. I don't know, which one was it now? There's actually just, it's a kind of a head-forming cabbage. I believe it's Waltham. And then there's some oca, some tiger nuts and onions, and red Russian kale among potatoes. We've harvested those. They did not do that well, though, because it's kind of on the east side of the big ash trees here. So they didn't get enough water, I believe. And here is the wall garden, which looked really nice and clean and tidy when it was set up. But it's now full of produce, of course, and with the wind it has actually fallen over a little. But I'll show you that now. Okay. Hang on a second. So we have our projects here. So on our website, we simply, I didn't actually need to organize all of the pictures and all the different galleries and whatnot and videos and things to show you, because we kind of have them organized on our website already, and I have updated them a little more. So if you just click on projects on the very top, you'll see all of our little gardens that we have here on our property. So the pizza garden is the main one, as you can see here, and we'll start with that. And click on it, and let me just show you a quick video, and I'll just talk over it. You won't actually hear the sound. Now we have 3 different longer videos, and we also have a compilation of how we actually built it and the tour at the end. So if anyone wants to know more about the pizza garden, it's all here. It's all free. So this is just a little compilation just to give people an idea in, well, maybe about 5 minutes. So this is what it looked like before planting. And this is what it looks like about 2 months after planting. Things have really taken off quickly, and we did not actually tend to the garden at all. We started off with a field just like that, and we let the chickens actually run on it for about 6 weeks, and we had plastic on it. We had it covered in black plastic for about a week to 10 days. But we could have done one or the other. Either we could have covered it in plastic for a while, for as long as you like. As longer the better, obviously. Or you can just use chickens as well. And we'll spare a moment for these two poor chickens here. These are cucamarans right here in front. Unfortunately, both of them actually passed away of illness. And unfortunately, we will not be purchasing cucamarans anymore. I think bluebell are a much more reliable bird anyway. And here is myself and our little son, Jacob. He's only 2.5 years old now. He's helping with the cardboard. And we basically started to lay out the cardboard. We got all this cardboard from farm shops and some from furniture places as well, furniture warehouses. You can get them really well from a like bicycle shop, actually, as our friend Jacob said to us the other day. He's from Strokestown. And we basically make sure that the cardboard is very well overlapped, and then just basically to smother the grass. And you have to lay down enough of it so that it smothers the grass for long enough to kill it off, basically. And but there's no point in putting too much down. Here's some compost. This is fresh mushroom compost. About 17 tons of it usually, a big trailer like that. And this is our friend and neighbor Brendan, helping us with his front loader. Thanks to Brendan, we got a lot more work done than we otherwise would have, and I simply leveled it then with the rake. And normally you'd have music on top of this, so if you want to watch the video again, it's probably even more entertaining than me actually talking over it, but I just wanted to explain what we were doing here, and I give you guys a bit more background on it, because it's actually the latest garden that we set up, and well, probably the most famous as well, because obviously the name Pizza Garden because of the shape of it. Some people assumed that it was because of the things that we grow in them in the garden. No, it's not. It's because of the shape, actually. And I figured that it's actually good marketing as well, especially for the kids. They'd love a garden and probably would eat food from a garden that's called Pizza Garden. So here we made a grass barrier and basically 1 meter wide plastic, and then wood chips on top, which is removable afterwards if you want to. And we put some wood chips on the paths. We basically flattened the paths just by walking on them. We did put down some builder's line to make them straight, and then just walked on them and put the wood chips on. So there is the paths done. And you'll notice that the paths around the actual growing space is fairly wide in comparison to the other paths. That's because you want to make sure you have plenty of room to walk around them. So we have actually went a little overboard on how many things we ended up with having ready to plant. And so basically we just put those on. Hang on. There's Jacob with the onion sets. And to plant things in a no-dig garden, it's really easy. There's basically 20 to 25 centimeters worth of mushroom compost here. So you don't need garden tools. You don't need a shovel. Just use your hands. Well, you might wear gloves. And you just make a hole and plant it. And that's all there's to it. And it's very easy to keep these gardens weed-free. And yeah, there's the bumblebee garden, the secret bumblebee garden. So you can see here, that's it planted. And we basically abandoned that garden then. Well, not abandoned it. We just moved on to other projects and basically left it to its own. And we came back, well, week after week to have a look. But we were always amazed. Every week we were like, oh, this is unbelievable how much growth there is in it. And even looking back, I can't believe it's actually only been 2 months since that this garden actually has come to be. As you can see here, things have really taken off. We've already been eating a lot of produce from here. And yeah, that's the kind of, that's the kind of growth you can expect in midsummer if you set up the garden this way anyway. So we didn't even amend the compost either. Now, let me just show you here. So we didn't even amend the compost itself. We could have, and we will in the future, add some mineral dust, volcanic mineral dust, rock dust, I should say, and some seaweed dust as well. And there is other things you can add, for example, green sand as well. I'm not even sure if you can buy that in Ireland. I'm sure you can somewhere, but Michael Pilarski actually liked to use that too. So we will, let me see here. No, just bear with me for 1 second. Yeah, so amending the soil definitely probably would help with the fertility, but as you can see, things are growing, but obviously minerals actually make it more healthy and make the plants actually grow healthier and quicker, and actually help them to stay healthy as well, instead of having develop either diseases or being susceptible to pests as well. So I see there's a good few of you guys actually. I think there's actually 24 of you guys actually connected here at the moment. Tell us where you are actually based. Where are you? Just to give us an idea of what sort of climate you live in, and I mean, you could be anywhere in the world, and I'm wondering whereabouts are you guys based? And even in Ireland, there is microclimates. I mean, you have coastal climates, which is maritime, cold temperate. Here in the Midlands of Ireland, where we are, we have a different kind of climate. We get frost in the winter. And so let's see. Do any of you have any questions? Wicklow, very good. And where is everybody else based? Don't be shy. We're already coming up on our half an hour deadline, but we'll still keep going for a few more minutes, because I want to show you a few more of our little garden projects. Oh, a lot of you actually from Wicklow, and there's somebody from Wexford and someone from Galway. Very good. Thank you all for joining and watching. We appreciate that, and hopefully you guys get something from this, or at least learn from our mistakes too, and hopefully learn from our successes as well. But I'll just show you guys another. I'll show you guys another project. No, that's actually the pizza garden. And we also have a micro food forest. We also have the wall garden. What I'll do is I'll just show you the Woodchip Island real quick. So we basically went from this. These are actually big pictures. From a field to basically the Woodchip Island in only 5 weeks after planting, actually. And 3.5 months later, we've already had mature corn plants and everything else, and some yacon in between, and plenty of perennials already fairly well established. And let's see here. So we have a tour of the Woodchip Island as well, and how we made it. So I'll just start here from the bottom one. Now these galleries actually download all of the pictures all at once, which is not the most efficient way to do it. But here is the wall, which is actually built in around the famine time. So this is the first tree that I actually planted on the property. It's an oak tree. And we got some compost. So there's a big pile of mushroom compost, and some wood chips in the background. As you can see, the contrast here between wood chips. They're very fresh wood chips, so that made planting the King Stropharia or winecap mushroom spawn very easy, and it actually worked. And you can see how we, bit by bit, we covered the compost with, we raked out the compost and raked out the wood chips as well. And then we started planting into it, and things really took off very quickly. And we can see there is actually some runner beans going up a hazelnut trellis, a hazelwood trellis, and we planted some kale underneath, and it worked fine. The kale actually grew side by side with the runner beans, and once the runner beans had receded, with the kale took over, basically. Like the kale got more sunlight and it then was a winter crop. So that was great. As you can see there. We didn't get to grow any runner beans this year. We'll actually make a full episode just on growing food in our gardens and No Dig Gardens. We'll probably do that next weekend, if anyone's interested. Keep an eye out or even subscribe. You can go to our website, gardensforlife.ie/subscribe, and then sign up to our email list, and then you'll be always up to date. Here's the corn. That's Northern Extra Sweet again. That's the one we've been growing since last year. Seems to work fine in this climate outdoors. Few. But as you can see, even pumpkins did very well, and they did not. None of the food actually went rotten, as in like because touching off the ground wasn't an issue. Even strawberries can be grown in pure wood chips, because if actually normally people would put straw under them, but with wood chips you don't have to. Same as pumpkins as well. You don't have to keep them off the ground to stop them from rotting. But we also planted some flowers. You can see here we expanded the Woodchip Island then a little. It was originally 400 square meters, and we expanded it by about 200 square meters. We added onto it, and we planted some extra specimen plants, some berry bushes, and all the rest. This is what the garden actually looked like in March this year. The Woodchip Island was kind of bare in the winter time, or after the winter, I should say. Some of the brassicas, as you can see, were starting to flower and going to seed, but the tubers were all still underground, of course, until the last chance of frost is gone. I guess that's when they kind of start growing anyway, in late April. And the corn is all gone, and that's the Jerusalem artichokes. That's what they look like over the winter. And then we had some mushrooms actually popping up there, and we ate them. They were very good, and that's the Woodchip Island. Now, let me just check here. Okay, I'll answer a couple of your questions actually before we run out of time. Okay, let me have a look here. Well, Orla, the best way you can stop creatures from nibbling at your crops is probably, if it's rabbits, you have to keep them out with a fence or with a wall. Luckily, on our property, we actually have that stone wall is on one side and the road is on the other side. So rabbits actually don't seem to be a problem at all in our area, including deer. But as for other kind of critters, like slugs, for example, or caterpillars, we don't actually bother trying to stop them. When we see slugs, we basically just take them away from the garden. We don't actually kill slugs, but what you can do as well is you can just prevent slug damage in many ways. For example, you can just make sure you don't leave any dead plant matter around the place on the ground, because that only attracts slugs. They can smell the rotten plants or the dead plants from a distance, and they all come forward. We know because we've had actually some proof of this in our other garden years ago. We had some vegetables grown right there in our garden, for example, some salads and things like that. And at nighttime, I brought the compost bowl out to the compost pile, and I noticed with the flashlight, I was shining the light, and there was actually a thistle I had ripped up earlier that day. And the slugs were actually on the thistle, eating the thistle itself, rather than eating the fresh lettuce on the other side, just 30 centimeters away. So that was kind of an eye-opener to me, not to leave any old or rotten plant matter around the place. Just put it far away, keep the garden clean, and keep your plants healthy, and make sure that you outgrow the pests. For example, the birds as well. For berries, that's the one challenge you will have. And this year, I believe we've done it for the first time. We've actually outgrown the birds' hunger for berries, because we have had so many years basically 3 years there where we didn't get any berries because the birds were eating them, and we didn't mind. They're good to have around, but we couldn't be bothered with fruit cages and the likes, so we basically just ended up growing more and more berry bushes. And same as with kale, for example, it's not really an issue having the caterpillars around. You just need to kind of keep an eye on them, and if you see caterpillars eating things, you just take that leaf off and bring it far away and just leave them be. So let's see here, what other questions have we got? If anyone has any questions, please ask. So Noel, let me see here. What type of wood chips do we use? Generally speaking, hardwood wood chips are the best, and you should most certainly use fresh wood chips as well if you can get them. Although Charles Dowding says you should use old wood chips, 6 months old, to use on the pats, we found that they're not really harboring slugs as much as people think they do, and they don't rob nitrogen from the soil below because you're not mixing the compost layer with the wood chip layer. So it's not really an issue, and you can get wood chips from arborists or local tree services companies. Try to get them mixed with the whole tree included, leaves and branches and wood all in one go, and as many different species of trees as you can. Especially hardwoods are awesome, especially for growing mushrooms, culinary mushrooms like wine cap. You can actually grow them. As you can see, our Woodchip Island is actually all Leilandi wood chips. I heard there was a big job in town, and then we got a big tractor trailer load of Leilandi wood chips, and it was not an issue. So now, again with the caterpillars, Monica, we don't actually bother fighting them or getting rid of them. We don't kill the eggs or the caterpillars themselves. We don't mind having the butterflies around because they're important pollinators too. I mean, the bee is only one pollinator of many, and you can just simply take that leaf off where you see the caterpillars on there, and just bring it far away and just throw it into the field somewhere. That's basically the best way to deal with them. And yeah, so does anyone have any other questions? We'll try to keep it short now. We're already on for 40 minutes now. I know there's about a 10-second delay before you get this, before you hear this. If you have any questions, just give us, just leave it in the chat there. And what I'll do now is I'll just show you one or two more of our gardens. Let me see here. Okay, so that's the Woodchip Island. Projects. We are actually kind of set up lots of little gardens, and that way we have this one here I only have a video of, but you can check it out yourselves. We actually covered the ground in cardboard, and we covered it in compost the same way. But and then basically, instead of, it's kind of a mixture of a market garden the way Richard Perkins does it, for example. We basically covered the ground in compost, made paths, and then put the wood chips on, and then the plants, the roots of the plants can actually still go growing under the paths, so they can still utilize that space. It doesn't become a waste at all. And yeah, so this is basically just the same thing as the pizza garden, except it's kind of straight. Sorry, now just 1 second. And I want to show you the front garden anyway. So we went basically from this when we bought the property 3.5 years ago, and in only 1 year we went to this. And basically we put down the same sort of layers, the cardboard, the compost, and the wood chips, and we planted into it, and things really took off very quickly. As I said to you, the front garden is absolutely, it's actually not just a beautiful place to be in, it's also highly productive. And there's very little maintenance with it, except for mowing the grass, of course. We want to keep some grass just to walk on. It's nice too. And on the right-hand side here, over here, you can see there is a 3-year-old fennel plant, which is now 3 years old, and it's still going strong. We get to have a harvest of, instead of harvesting the bulb, we get to harvest the seeds every year in the fall, and also the leaves of the tree, or the fennel, which make for a very good remedy for digestive trouble. So in the front, actually in the foreground on the right hand side, you see there's some marshmallow and a hazel. So and here's what it looked like originally. We covered it in cardboard, just like you see here. It's our monkey puzzle trees. When we first went here to see the property, we actually saw the monkey puzzle tree seed, the monkey puzzles, and the trees here, and we saw one of them was even flowering, and we said, "Oh no, what? You know what? That'll do. Sure, those monkey puzzle trees are so nice. We'll take it." And there's a house there somewhere behind them. We don't even need to see it. We like it already. You can see here we did our rock. The barrier between the grass is kind of field stones, and that's what it looks like after planting. So. Yeah, so we have lots of videos, and these are not edible mushrooms as far as we know, but it's just some impressions, and lots of videos and pictures of our plantings. What zone are we in? I assume you mean climate zone, so it's USDA zone 9A. So we do get frost, but not huge, maybe about -2 or 3 regularly. Sometimes it does go to -5 or 6, and that's about the coldest it does get. And let me have a look here. Yeah, so actually time is flying. We don't want to leave this too long now either. Does anyone have any last questions? Or we'll leave it at that. So you'll get a chance to ask questions now for a minute. And if you don't have any more questions, next week we'll do a broadcast on growing food in the garden and how we did it. We've been growing a lot of different vegetables, and we're not experts at growing vegetables. We're only getting better at it. And also we're doing some, let me see here now. We're also growing some tubers for the winter, for harvesting in the winter. And we're growing lots of kale as well, because that's the kind of thing you can leave there in the field and not harvest it if you don't want to eat it, and then harvest it when you need it, or whenever you like, whenever you decide to eat it. Let me see here. Oh yeah, let me see here. Bianca has said to me, Orla is asking, when is the ideal time to start a pizza garden? Well, the answer is actually you can start a no dig garden any time of the year at all. The only difference is when can you actually plant things in it. There are still things you can plant now. Even some stuff needs to be planted before the winter, so it can overwinter and then grow in the springtime. For example, garlic and some of the brassicas as well, especially purple sprout and broccoli. But it might be a little late to plant that, but you can actually do the work now in advance of when the next growing season starts. Most vegetables, especially the ones that are kind of frost hardy, you can actually start putting those in the ground even as early as February, as far as I know. There is some vegetables, for example, there's hardy varieties of lettuce that'll actually start growing. Even red Russian kale will grow at temperatures of 4 degrees Celsius. And once it's above that temperature, it will actually grow, even though a little slower than normal. But as you know, well, in Ireland anyway, it's not very cold anyway, so you can still do it. And we like to start gardens year round as soon as we get a chance, but then planting the main bulk of the crop at the start of the growing season, which means we start seedlings in our greenhouse March and April, and then start planting those out between April and May or June. So especially the likes of pumpkins, you want to be careful you don't plant them out too early in when there's still a chance of frost. Any of those kind of frost tender crops you need to be careful with. Yeah, we'll leave it at that, and please come back. Thanks for joining, and go to our website and click on projects in the very top, or scroll down to our projects bar, where you can see all the different projects with videos and pictures and some descriptions. If you have any questions, leave a comment on Facebook or on YouTube, and we'll get to it later. Yeah, so that's it. And next weekend we'll announce a time and a day for our next broadcast or live stream. We will talk about growing food in the garden with low maintenance and yet high productivity. Thanks for watching, and give us a like. Thanks a million. Bye-bye.